Welcome to the MCLA Know Your Network podcast. Know your network, grow your community, learn what MCLA has to offer. Explore MCLA's community one conversation at a time.
All right. Welcome to the Know Your Network podcast, where we interview all of your favorite departments here on the MCLA campus. I'm, of course, your host, Lex, and today I've got two very special guests, Michael Dilthey and Brian Cook from the FPA Department here at MCLA. All right. So first off, can each of you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background, not only with music, but here at MCLA?
Well, thank you for having us, and cheers to you for doing this. It's an awesome opportunity, but it's more fun to share things about our school and about our program that we've created. I am a music professor here, and I've been a church organist for, I think, 40 plus years, 48 years, something like that. My mother was a church organist for 68 years. It's sort of a heritage passed down. And then my professors, when I was an undergraduate, when I was in graduate school, they all meant a great deal to me. I was not only inspired by them, but motivated by them to get to here. So I'm very happy in the path of the typical music student going to college, getting advanced degrees, and coming to find yourself here.
Awesome.
I also compose. So when I'm not playing the church organ or teaching in front of the class, I create music and I write music. That's what got me started in music.
Fantastic.
I started playing music because my brother had given me his old Yamaha keyboard, one of those really small ones. And I started learning just the melodies of songs by ears. And luckily my parents heard that and supported it. And then I got music lessons and met other people who played music and started bands. And as soon as you start a band, I think most people, as soon as they start a band, think, okay, how can we record this? And I started to become obsessed with audio production and went to study composition because I was also writing music like Michael, and which I think composition is a huge part of studio production as well. And then went on to get an MFA at RPI, which is an interdisciplinary degree, which also focused on music technology as well as composition. And, really just from there, the rest is history. Just that obsession with how to record music and make it sound good has continued, certainly, my whole life.
Awesome.
One of the things that interests me about Brian so much is not just his ability in the classes that we ask him to teach, but Brian, you have experience in music and science, and you have music and business, and you've sort of been out there in quote unquote the real world, and you find different pathways for our students outside of the typical play this instrument, get on a stage, either in an orchestra or in a band, and make music. That's very important, and that's central to being a music student, but you've been on that other side as well. Can you talk about that, some of your experience with that world?
Absolutely. I mean, I've helped start 3 creative businesses, the first of which was born out of RPI, which is famously not an art school. It's famously an engineering school. And we had an augmented reality company, and that went really well for a while. We got into a business accelerator sponsored by Intel. That's originally what brought me out to California after grad school, but then that inevitably failed. We kind of had a product looking for a solution as opposed to a solution for a problem. But then when the pandemic started, I joined my same co-founder, Ronald Sardarian, who had just started a new company called Sleepy Circuits that makes video synthesizers that with which you could easily sync visuals to music. And that really found success during the pandemic because you had so many people at home that wanted interesting visual backgrounds for their stream performances, or just wanted to kind of zone out and forget about the world, or wanted a nice green screen backdrop for their podcast. And that business is still going today, although I focus more on teaching now. I still do product photography and chat with Ron all the time, and That one I'm really proud of. And then the third one would be my own studio where I record and mix and master other people's music. So the business side of it has always fascinated me. In fact, I feel right at home at MCLA because even before the music industry and production major, and in fact, even before the arts management major, so many creative business people have come out of this program. I was just talking to Jessica Sweeney, we call her Sweens, and owner of Savvy Hive and the founder of Common Folk and all these amazing local things. And she graduated from MCLA right before they had an arts management degree.
And your colleague, Dan O'Connell.
Yeah. And
he's another product of our graduation.
That's true. And Dan is actually the one who introduced me to MCLA and the idea. And I met Dan, I believe, through Common Folk, which was founded by Sweens. So it really came full circle.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that speaks a lot to our next question, which is the overall mission of the music industry and production major. So just to summarize it, what would you guys say that is?
Well, I don't want this whole podcast to be me going first, so I'll go first on this one, but then I'm going to wait until Brian speaks up. In 2013, there was a message from College Music Society, which is a nationwide organization that recognizes and sometimes accredits schools of music, and sort of as a platform for schools of music who are already formed and wanting to know how they're doing, or for up-and-coming schools who want to launch into the music degree business. They sent out a missive that said, stop training viola players to be better viola players in a vacuum. And nothing against viola players. The world needs viola players, but we also want our viola players to know something about music production, to know something about the business of music, to know something about the world of music. So just in case that degree, I remember so vividly when Barack Obama said that music history wasn't a good major, I was crushed for a moment, and it shook my otherwise great admiration for that president. But it's the realities are in our 21st century, we cannot live in a single path as a musician, except for a very few Taylor Swifts out there who might find a successful career in just doing one thing. But I would argue even they are familiar with the studio, familiar with the recording process, familiar with the business of music. And that's in part why they do so well, is because they have this familiarity. So we had our arts management program in place, and we were building onto the performing arts management. We brought in Jerome, our colleague who does performing arts management courses, and we sort of said, this is the path that we want to do. We're not a big enough school. We have 2 full-time professors. We don't have enough of the periphery to build a traditional music degree. So we want to lean into this new technology, this new ideas. We built up our studios, and then when we felt as though we were ready, we launched the program. We had it approved by this college and then by the state, and we launched into this program. And now we have equal footing for music courses that you'd find at any school, theory and music history and counterpoint and orchestration and things like that. But we also then have specific courses in music production and the business of music. The business of music are arts management, performing arts management courses, but they fit hand in glove with our program. And we consider Jerome to be one of our primary colleagues in this new degree. And then our production classes, I'll let you speak to those.
Oh, yeah.
I think on the production side of the degree, what's so cool to me and kind of justified this degree before it even existed is there are examples, many more than I know even, of students who went to MCLA before this degree and similar to Sweens ended up in production roles. Dan, our colleague, being a prime example, who works in the theater, 62 Center at Williams, And, we since had internships where we sent interns to local studios and they were hired to continue to work there. And this has been a tradition long before the degree program, and happily continues to be a tradition, now that the degree is here. The production courses, I believe we're just going over these. We have quite a few now, which is awesome. And the student body and the students, as they get more and more advanced, seem to form a more tight-knit group, which has been awesome to see. And they're really, truly a lot of fun. Our prerequisite, which is also a core curriculum class, which anyone can take, even if you don't play any music, if you just want to learn about how music is made, is home studio recording. And that's a prerequisite for advanced studio recording, where we make an album as a class collaboratively, rotating through roles of, artist, recording engineer, mixing engineer, mastering engineer. And then we have software music composition, where we deep dive into different software. This semester, we're deep diving into Logic Pro, and students are making new music in that class every week, which has been amazing to see. I mean, actually, I can't believe the quality of the music made in this class.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah. It's like Tuesdays are our days where we listen to what everyone has created and talk about what works and what doesn't, and talk about different compositional approaches, like a vertical approach where you're stacking loops, or a through composed approach where the piece continues to evolve, or, very dense orchestration versus very sparse orchestration, different emotions, different chord changes or key changes, convey all that stuff. But a lot of the time we're all also just like celebrating and being inspired by each other's work.
Right.
The tracks in that class are truly so incredible.
Really great. Really great stuff. And honestly, I think like through music production for film, I'd say, is where I discovered like my love for MIDI.
Yeah.
And then just going into composing with software, it's like this is like a playground.
It's true.
Yeah.
We finally have the computers now that I was promised all of my life. Truly, you can make any sound like anything else. The creativity in audio today is endless. It's truly incredible. And music production for film, our colleague Dan is teaching right now, and that works with composing for visual media, which is fascinating. And Dan also touches on video game audio as well, and has a really great guest speaker for that segment as well. And then we have, there's two new ones, coming up, which is audio engineering, which, as far as the mixing and mastering side, is the most advanced course you could take here, and it will be repeated and let's say repeated and intriguing mixing and mastering puzzles.
Right. Awesome.
To be prepared for what you will face inevitably when you graduate from here. And then live sound, which is also super exciting. Dan, our colleague, does live sound work almost every day, and I do live sound work occasionally. I try to ask for ridiculous amounts of money because I don't love doing it, but somehow people still say yes. Which, by the way, it is a if you really get good at it, can be a very, and you don't mind traveling, it can be a very lucrative
thing. Yeah.
But Dan does live sound every day, and I can't wait for Dan to teach that course. That's going to be incredible.
Yeah. I'm also excited for that because I have no live sound background.
Well, you're doing live sound right now.
I guess that's true.
But I want to follow up with what Brian said about our students. When I went to music school as an undergraduate and then as a graduate student, there was always you learn to play an instrument, or maybe you have an interest in composing, but it's often, even then, in conjunction with an instrument. And it was more driven by that talent or that desire. And yet there are so many people that music means so much to us that I always used to think that you don't go into music because you want to perform in music. You go into music because you have to. You have this burning passion and you can't escape that. So you find a way. Well, now we live in a world where technology allows us to find that way, and you don't have to be an exceptionally sharp musician. this happened Hector Berlioz in music history. It happens to us now. We don't have to be proficient in a keyboard or on a brass instrument or a woodwind instrument. You just have a desire to make music, and you can do so with our software, with our technology, and you can make a living doing that same thing.
Yeah, I totally can speak to that because, I'm a drummer. I've been a drummer since high school, and I do love playing drums, but I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to do, like as a career, and I thought, maybe I can drum on some tracks, but audio engineering and composing with, especially with software and with MIDI composition has truly, like, honestly, led me to find out what I actually want to do. And I think this program has really helped me discover that and helped me enhance those skills. And not only that, I've learned music theory much better since coming here.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
That's great to hear, though. That's awesome.
Yeah, so let's talk about music theory. How about that? Since we have a lot of music theory offerings here, and not only do we have music theory 1 through 4, but we also have like orchestration and counterpoint, and we should talk about like how those enhance students' understanding of music theory.
Well, I'm going to keep my word because I asked Brian about this question. What's the good of music theory in this world of making music on a computer and on a software platform? And he had a great answer. So I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, good. I'm glad. But I'm so glad I had a great answer.
it was you said that when you're behind the board, you have a vocabulary to be able to talk to the performers. So how does your music theory fit into your work in these classes and or in those professional venues that you talked about?
I think, first of all, I remember I had this aha moment when I was an undergrad and I was in a booth above an orchestra. If you can imagine like Abbey Road, I mean, it wasn't this glamorous in any regard, but Abbey Road Studios, this big room with a full orchestra and some sound engineers way up near the ceiling in the booth. And I was in a booth with my friend who was, I was studying composition and he was studying music production. And he was reading the score as the orchestra was performing. And I was like, wait, what, you study music production? You know how to read that? He said, yeah, I know how to read this. And I said, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm making sure this is a good take. And I thought, oh, wow. In order to make a good recording, it's not all just about microphones. It's not all about placement or room acoustics, although those things are extremely important. The content you're recording is the most important thing. I often tell my students, audio engineering, if bad, can ruin a good song, but good audio engineering will never make a bad song good.
Yeah.
The content is still, by and large, the most important part. And we know this because of so many people who, like Bruce Springsteen. Excuse me. Bruce Springsteen recorded his first album on a Porta-Studio tape cassette machine. Super lo-fi. Like, lo-fi music, came to popularity lately. Call it nostalgia, or I like one of my favorite artists, Bibio point of view, which is that when you make a low-fidelity recording, you're leaving room for the imagination because it's not a perfect capture. It doesn't have everything. Parts are missing. But whatever it is, we know that good music sounds great no matter how it's recorded. There's so many things that aren't perfectly mixed but are still so incredible. And a big part of that, whether consciously thinking about, a 5/5 chord, or subconsciously because you now have this arsenal to work with, consciously or subconsciously, these are huge parts of making good recordings, is making sure that the content really is conveying the emotion that it's meant to convey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's honestly great, especially when I think about like punk, a lot of it's not perfectly mixed, and it's like, that's the charm of it. It's like a little bit lo-fi, a little bit raw. And it definitely adds to the beauty of it. Would those songs still be the same if they were mixed perfectly or recorded perfectly?
Well, I think even more important, the priority was given to the content itself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's true. And the other thing is, the nice thing about a course like home studio recording is we learn the starting places, but audio engineering is an art, and mixed perfectly for punk is incredibly different than mixed perfectly for classical.
Yes.
So in a lot of ways, it's all about conveying emotion, and things like counterpoint and orchestration, which are courses within the music theory repertoire of courses that we're discussing here, teach you how to do that. I mean, they teach you how to convey emotion and in interesting ways. I had a student also recently tell me that if you don't know music theory, you might not know why the thing you're doing is cheesy.
Yeah. It's an unfortunate true remark.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sort of live in this space of justifying how we put this degree together and what we think is important, because we do have an unusual degree. It's becoming less unusual now. There are more schools that are leaning in this direction, either as a second major or as an option. Here, we make it our primary to invest in music industry classes and music production classes, as well as music classes. But the theory inside of all that, music theory, is a hard course. It's a difficult animal to get your head around. And I stay up at night thinking, is this the path that I want to put our music students through? And a couple of things come to mind. Number one, college is supposed to be hard. It isn't supposed to be loosey-goosey and your sort of gut feeling all the time. You need the meat behind the bones or the bones behind the meat, maybe is the better metaphor, to build on and to have a valuable experience in college. And not just hard for hard's sake, but specifically what happens in music. But then our degree is sort of taking that concept and putting it into the rationale. That is, if we think it's important to allow students who aren't necessarily a performer on an instrument to become music students, we can't have them take a second tier place in the music language. We have to push them as hard as we would push any music student in order that they will be prepared. That the two of you in that booth, that reminds me of reading a score is not easy by any means. But if you ever watch an orchestra being recorded by a good studio, visual studio, they know when the soloists are going to come up in the piece, and when does the flute solo happen? When should we focus in on the first violins? When should we go over to the cellos or the basses? We know the camera moves around and sort of educates the listener as to how to listen to this piece. So it becomes a vehicle not just for the experience, but for learning about what's happening in the orchestral music. That education makes the listener the better and improves the experience of what we do. Our arts management is constantly going down that path. How can they build experiential opportunities for learning about art so that their audience, whether it's at a museum or in a classroom, they're more informed and better to experience the art itself? Well, even in rock and roll bands, how do you record? How do you create a good mix, a master of that piece? Not so much the things that we leave out, but the things that we put in order to create a balance, create the audio spacing and the nuance of the brilliance of the cymbal versus the depth of the bass. And how do we? I was listening to a recording in class today, and the engineers somehow captured the overtones that were being created vocally over this choir. And it was one of my music students, Evie, looked at me and his eyes got really big and they said, "What?" And it's so exciting when you capture a great recording of a great performance and it's made better by that master mix. So that's what we're teaching here. That's what we're taking a stand for, is not just teaching the technical, what does this button do and what does that slider do, but how to really go after the musical experience. And music theory is a part of that conversation.
I have to say, too, pretty much if you are working with musicians in a recording setting at this point, because of the consolidation of roles that has happened, partially because a lot of people are recording at home, it's not exactly an expectation But in some instances it is, and it's certainly always a bonus if you can play the true producer role. Oh, we should put glockenspiel here just to layer that texture in. I do that all the time. We should put a Fender Rhodes here. We should put a synth pad here. There's so much of that goes on in the studio, and there's a big difference between calling people up and asking them to do it and sending files back and forth than just saying, hey, what's the chord here to the artist? And they tell you the chord changes, and then you put the part in, and right there, done. And it inspires the artist more. It is magic. I mean, that's studio magic. That's what all the best producers in all of history have done, is they've added their little orchestral ideas.
It was true in the 90s with boy bands. It was true in the 60s with the Beatles and with Rolling Stones. It's true in the 70s with Kansas and Asia.
It's true today with Phoebe Bridgers and what's the producer's name?
Jack Antonoff?
No. Well, that's a great man. I almost had the producer's name on the tip of my tongue, but no. Let's do this again. You don't edit? I don't care. It's true today with Taylor Swift and Jack Antonoff, or any producer really is adding their own kind of ideas into the mix.
Definitely.
Speaking the same language, recording the artist, adding their own ideas into the mix. Honestly, it's one of the most fun things in the world. Imagine if someone brings you a song that's already done and just says, make this sound as good as possible, and also play some stuff along with me. Like, the jobs don't get more fun than that. Yeah. That's not a job AI needs to replace, all right? AI can replace like dangerous mining jobs and things.
Whatever.
That's one of the most fun jobs in the world.
Yeah, definitely. It's really, honestly, quite magical, like, to experience it yourself. Like, for a while, I didn't really know what like a producer did in comparison to an artist or, an engineer. But, sometimes I have to be, if I'm engineering something, I also have to be the producer, and that's just something that I have to do. And I like it a lot because, it's like when there's too much cowbell, I don't like it. I'm going to turn it down. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to turn your cowbell down, or, maybe we can add some keyboard here, or, some strings. I love to just mindlessly add strings to things. And in producing,
mindfully.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can ever mindlessly add strings.
I mean, they're really great. I'm just a big fan of strings.
I don't blame you.
But yeah, producing, it's really fun, and I think it should be taught more often, like we do here. Like, I feel like I've gotten more producing experience in 2 years here than I ever have anywhere else. So I'm really, honestly, I really like it. It's really fun, and I think it just adds so much to the musical experience. So it's great. But yeah, that's, I think, a lot of the meat and potatoes of the degree. But do we have options for people who want to perform in a band or perform solo?
I'm going to go first this time.
Oh, yeah.
Tony Berg was the name of the producer I was trying to think of before.
Great.
Okay, Michael, you can take it from here.
Tony, this one's for you.
Very, very famous. He doesn't really need a shout out from us at all. But
that's all right.
The name escaped me, and I'm glad I got it.
It's that sort of spirit of, we have a jazz band in place, we have a choir in place, and those are two more traditional standard performing ensembles at the college level. We have on paper a wind ensemble, and I hope that returns pretty soon. We closed it down, tried it once after COVID, but we haven't been able to get enough students involved with it to make a go at it. But we're still have a spirited approach to that wind ensemble. We don't have a place for strings of the classical music style, that is violin, viola, cello, double bass. We do use a double bass in the jazz band and the jazz music space. But any of these instruments can double into any of these ensembles, and often that's what happens. I remember one of our trombone players, when he showed up, it was the first semester where the wind ensemble didn't make, and he was a little bit disappointed. And I said, well, try this jazz band. And he's been just a perfect fit for that ensemble, and a good example of how our students can thrive. We have students who aren't in the music department who are in these ensembles. I had a trumpeter last semester, Nalia, who was playing in the jazz band, and it was great, and she was awesome.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So we have good opportunities for the traditional paths, But then what happens with a lot of our music students is what's happening in Brian's class, where they want to record something and they do a pickup band. They got some friends together and sort of let's build this either piece by piece or all at once, and depending on how comfortable they feel, but they step into the role. I put together a piece of circus music, oddly enough, about 2 months ago, and we're going to be doing another recording of that circus music here in next month. So we can put together all kinds of experiences and perform, and it happens in the studio.
And that circus music is not just because you've gone insane. That's for a local community access show, just to be clear for context there.
Yeah, you're not the joker.
Rationale for that circus music.
No, it is true. I also, just to mention Common Folk again, which kind of was, it's a local artist collective, which is kind of born out of MCLA in many ways. It was in a lot of ways also born out of the house shows, that people, upperclassmen who'd rent local houses, they would host little gatherings of local bands playing music. And it's another thing that MCLA has a great tradition of, is local rock music and folk music and all these other bands that just pop up. And I think, post-pandemic, it was a little rough, but I think, Lex, you might be able to tell us a little bit more about more student music that's popping up now. And by the way, I believe Common Folk, from how I understand it, is planning on restarting kind of that very indie artist music series again. And I've already talked to Sweens about ways to get MCLA students involved with that, because in a lot of ways, that's where it was born.
Right.
We're also sending students over to Studio 9 at Porches. It's a fast, quickly growing space of, they had one amazing studio, now they have 4, and they're doing open mic nights on Tuesday, and we have students regularly there, both as interns working that space and then as participants in the open mics and doing their own music. So again, it's these kind of the pickup nature of music making, the organic building of musical ensembles that is created with this much creativity in the walls.
Yeah.
I have 2, that's right now, actually. I have 2 students performing. Helen said she's performing tonight in that. And then I know at least Daniel Isaac is also performing that tonight.
Yeah, Helen's trying to take the music collective to those.
That's going to be fun, yeah.
Which is another thing that I actually want to talk about, because you mentioned students that are not in the music program doing music. Mm-hmm. And then Brian mentioned performance. And that's kind of a lot of the thing that the music collective is trying to do, I know as the vice president, me and the other e-board members are trying to get, non-music students more involved with music and more involved with performing. So we're trying to put together maybe some sets for the open mic night or other performances that we could do, like maybe a concert in here. And we also do workshops on different things. Like we did a genre workshop, and currently I have one cooking, which is a beginner like theory 101 workshop, which I'd like to do. And we talk a little bit about, working with theory like in a DAW and how that can, enhance not only your understanding of theory, but also how to incorporate theory into your beat making or your recording and your software composition. So a big thing that we want to do is, make learning music more approachable for people who aren't music majors.
So let me jump in right here and be clear about this. On Friday afternoons, the Music Collective is a student club that you can join if you have any desire to get involved with music. You can join this Friday. You can join at any point, because it's not for music majors. It's not for people who are advanced or have a certain level of skill or ability or talent. It's for you. And so it opens the door and makes possible, if it's just a dream. I was talking with a student this morning who was looking to buy a guitar, and they bought one and they realized the guitar was broken. They had to return it. And so they're going to buy another guitar, and they don't know anything about guitars. They can join the Music Collective on Friday afternoons. So it's a safe space to go and get involved. And student clubs are an amazing part of this campus and the history of this campus. And you should be in that club and participating in that and enjoying that. All that said, that's kind of the nature of what we're trying to do with this degree. We're not looking to be build a better bassoonist. We're looking to build an all-around music student who is interested in some performing and some mixing and recording, in some nonprofit marketing and how one might write a resume for a music job. So we're doing all of that to go after the 21st century music student, and that's who we want to meet at that music collective as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And I can speak from experience. I'm kind of personally with, music and audio, I'm just doing whatever gets me out there, doing whatever develops a skill in some sort, because I want to be that well-rounded individual when it comes to music. I want to be able to do a lot of different genres. I want to be able to work in a studio with any kind of band or any kind of artist, whether it's, one instrument or like 10 instruments. I want to be able to work with it. And I also want to be able to market myself for a job or freelance.
Yeah.
And I think this degree really, opens that.
And we're working in conjunction with this space, this SAM space. The SAM studio is a perfect space to come and have some fun and explore possibilities and try out ideas. Yeah. You're doing this podcast as part of our 21st century approach to where music fits into society and our culture and your future life. So I applaud you for this.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and there's many computer stations in here where even if you're new to making music, you can try it out without, this is open as far as I understand it, any student who goes here.
It's like Planet Fitness. There's no judgment.
Yeah.
So, it's the kind of the other side of the coin. Please go to the Music Collective, whether you're an advanced student or a beginner. And please utilize the space if you don't feel like playing music with a bunch of people and you just want to check out some music software on your own. This space is also available for you. We're trying to make. It's hard to MCLA is like no place I've ever been. It's hard to overstate truly how creative the students here are. Right. And we are certainly doing our best. And I commend the SAM Lab for doing this to provide the students with the tools they need to be creative. It's very inspiring. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything with more room for, production, for experimentation, for recording vocals. You can edit video in here. You can edit photos in here. And all that can be used in conjunction with your music and your musical studies, which is a really, really great thing, honestly. So please, by all means, come to the Music Collective Fridays at 7 p.m. In Church Street Center and sign up to use the SAM Lab, sign up to come experiment with more Reaper stuff and use the MIDI keyboards. And it's really a great place for any kind of, advancement with media and student access.
you got it all in there.
Yeah. Shameless plug. All right. So I guess sort of closing thoughts from you guys. What's just one piece of advice from each of you for college students looking to get into the music industry, regardless of what path they take?
I think that last sentence is regardless of what path they take is important because we try to train our students to kind of be ready for anything. There is no one way to success in music, certainly. It helps if you're a music composer to compose really good music and practice that, of course, and it helps if you're a recording engineer to practice that quite a bit. But the possibilities truly are endless, whether you do live sound, or you focus on making your own music business, opening an instrument shop, which the Northern Berkshires really has a lack of, by the way. Just mastering music. There's a lot of people in the region who do. There's so many possibilities. And like, if you're someone like me, your path may even change multiple times, and it's good to see the different sides of the industry, certainly. So that's kind of what we're preparing you for, is to understand the different sides of the industry. And if you want to enter the music industry, do it. Go for it. There's so many ways to do it.
Just
There's so many great ways to do it. Honestly, keep an open mind and try them all until one sticks.
Yeah.
And every successful person in any competitive field, because the music industry is competitive. Every successful person could have given up a number of times, and they're successful in their current position because they didn't. I was just listening to the Amy Poehler podcast with the actor Adam Scott, who is in they were both in Parks and Recreation. Adam Scott's in Severance, probably going to win a bunch of awards this year. Really incredible show we were talking about before we started recording. And I didn't realize Adam Scott had some ridiculous amount of time in just the smallest roles, 10 or 20 years or something like that, in the smallest roles, and now is one of the most looked up to, most successful actors there. And he said a couple times, he was really close to getting a role in 6 Feet Under. I've never seen that.
Great show.
Yeah, he was almost the lead in that.
Really?
And he said he when he didn't get that because he was so close, he almost gave up. Imagine if he gave up.
We wouldn't have a lot of great Adam Scott
Parks
moments.
And Rec. I mean, that was before Parks and Rec, I assume. That was before Severance, I assume. We wouldn't have these things at all. So don't give up. Just keep going.
Yeah.
My word of advice is, I might surprise the two of you because you know me pretty well, and I'm going to take a slightly different tack. It's been true for years now that 7 out of 10 graduates from Juilliard, arguably the top music school in the country or maybe the world, 7 out of 10 graduates in any given year will, within 10 years, not be working in music.
Wow.
They just drop out of music. And I have 2 sons who went into music at the college level, one who went to Juilliard. And they both still play and they both still love music, but they're also working in fields outside of music. Most people who get a degree in any pursuit in college will, at 1 or 2 or 5 points in their life, change their careers, change their paths, change their ways of doing things. If we can give you creativity, if we can give you a creative spirit in approaching your future, regardless of whether it's in music or not, and if you can go to college and have fun, why not go in music? Why not do it in music? If my 3rd son went to Skidmore as a music student, and now he makes $1 bazillion a year in a startup company doing computer programming. And he still plays the cello every Tuesday at the Greenwich Village Orchestra in New York City. So he's loving his musical life, but he's very successful in his business life as well. And I contribute part of that to the musical spirit. And I have students who have gone to MCLA. I have one student, Adrian, who went on to Toronto for a graduate degree in music, and now they're working in production, and they're very successful. And it's this spirit of, I can do this because I took a music degree, because I took this state school and found opportunities, created opportunities. Lex is going to be one of these characters who thrives and succeeds because they see an opportunity in what's here, and they sign up and they make these podcasts and they live into the future. And that's the spirit of success. It's not whether you'd learn something technical or something in a business sense, but it's your spirit of creativity and drive that you can find in this music degree and carry forward. So that's what I would have you think on.
Wow, that was both of you guys. That was really, really beautiful that you guys said that. And I can't disagree with either of those. Like, whether or not music is what you end up doing, like, you only have one life, try stuff out.
Let's have some fun.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Be creative. Like, music is one of the things that we live for, that keeps us going.
That's right.
Just like poetry or art, or like even movies, like, we live for these creative disciplines, this art, this energy of thinking that we do as humans. And I think what you guys do is both very powerful and speaks a lot to that. And just everything you do at MCLA. You guys are great. And like, really, thank you guys so much for coming on. I appreciate it. And I loved hearing all of your thoughts. And I'm sure, the audience will too. And I just really want to thank you guys for coming out. And thank you guys for all the work you do at MCLA. Because I think, one of the reasons MCLA is what it is because of the fantastic Finding Performing Arts Department.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. All right. That's the Know Your Network podcast. And for all of our other episodes, see YouTube or Spotify, and, have a great day. Thanks for watching. To join us on the next Know Your Network podcast, send requests to samlab@mcla.edu. To follow us on Instagram and YouTube, see the links in the description.